Hey, how you doing, friends? It is the 4th of May, 2021, and that means that in national parlance today is Star Wars Day. Well, that's a surprise, isn't it? And I've done some videos previously where I've talked through the 9 theatrical cinematic Skywalker saga Star Wars movies and talked about them in endless detail, and hardly any of you have watched them. But I do this stuff for me, I don't do this stuff for you. I mean, I do some of it for you. If you suggest it and it's a good idea, I'll do it. But since it's Star Wars Day, today I'm going to be talking about the Star Wars spin-off movies. And this is, I think, episode 90, 91, 92, 92, I think. And to give you a quick idea of what I'm going to be talking about, in chronological order, we have Star Wars, Caravan of Courage and Battle of Endor, the Ewok spin-off movies. We've got Droids, the 1986 animated television series, which also got a standalone DVD release for 2 episodes. We also have 2003, and I regard these as canon, the Clone Wars animated series. So 2 DVDs, which come to 2 hours of animated Star Wars. 2008 Star Wars The Clone Wars movie, the first, well, more correctly, the last thing that George Lucas released to theatres under the Star Wars name, whilst Star Wars was under his tutelage. Then 2016's Rogue One, and finally 2018's Solo, A Star Wars Story. What I'm not going to be talking about, because I haven't had a chance to re-watch them yet, is the complete season of Star Wars The Clone Wars. 6 seasons of this. I am in the midst of rewatching the best episodes from these, and when I have finished my exhaustive investigations, I will bring you an absolutely unwanted video about how good or not these are. Well, I say unwanted, actually. Some of you might be interested, but I figure you can't go wrong talking about Star Wars. And then also, obviously, Star Wars Rebels, the 4 seasons that have been issued on Blu-ray. I'm also going to be talking about The Mandalorian, season 1. I haven't seen season 2 yet. I have reasons behind that, primarily because I like to physically own my media, and the reason I like to physically own my media is because then it can't be futzed with. If the media that you have, the only version of it that exists on a streaming platform, you can edit out a guy in the background wearing jeans, you can change Greedo and his speech so he says McClunky, and you can make him a piss poor shot, or of course you can replace Yub Nub with a terrible song, all of which, of course, I thoroughly disapprove of, and therefore I prefer to own my media in physical form. You might call me a dinosaur, but when the streaming is switched off and you can't watch what you thought you wanted to watch, I'll be the one clinging to the discs until they prise them out of my dead cold hands. So I'm going to talk about the Star Wars non-canon, non-Skywalker saga releases. And there's a bit of expanded universe in this, and for the uninitiated, expanded universe is rogue and crazy fan fiction commissioned by Lucasfilm that often goes off into all kinds of weird and unusual angles, such as a spin-off, a clone of Luke's whatever the word is for having your hand chopped off, his decapitated hand that was then turned into a clone called Luke with 2 U's, for example, or some of the other ones. There are some really good spin-off comics, graphic novels, books, those type of things. There's a series called From a Certain Point of View, which contains, they've done them so far for the Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back, which contain about 40 short stories written about incidental characters that happen to have their own narratives. Really interesting books. Really strongly recommend those. But then you get into things like, having Admiral Thrawn, and then you get into Han and Leia and all that kind of stuff, and it all gets a bit, I'm not sure, you're just doing this to make money, and there's no overarching view of everything. There is, by the way, an overarching view by George Lucas, who was very heavily involved in the Clone Wars TV show with Dave Filoni, and you can see on some of the extras and some of the making ofs that George Lucas was deeply engaged in the storytelling around this, and this is why I think actually these Clone Wars which, by the way, I think is at the moment currently on Netflix, is very, very good and well worth watching. It may not be on Netflix anymore, but it was a few months ago. But then, of course, I believe Disney launched its own platform. So, where are we going to start? What is the worst Star Wars spin-off standalone DVD release? Well, let's be honest, it's a Star Wars Holiday Special, which has never been released physically, and it's only been broadcast once on television. A copy of that exists on YouTube. The quality is almost as bad as the content. It's absolutely awful. Do not watch it. I mean, you watch it and you go, God, that's bad. Why didn't anyone warn me? I told you so. I told you so. Don't watch it. It's awful. You can't forget how bad it is after you've watched it. It's kind of like, you know, that Queen album with Paul Rodgers singing called The Cosmos Rocks. It isn't really Queen, it's two bored millionaires and a third dude making an album using the name of a dead band. And you go, oh, there's always going to be that little taste at the back of your mouth where you go, oh God, this is bad, isn't it? And I've had that when I was watching certain things relating to Star Wars. I didn't have it actually relating to Droids. Droids is my least favourite of the Star Wars spin-off Thingamedo. It's an animated series with Anthony Daniels, the C-3PO. Anthony Daniels probably needed the money, or more correctly, wanted the money, and was quite happy to do it. They're okay, you know, but they're cheesy, low budget 80s animation. And this DVD contains, it calls itself a double feature, but it contains two feature-length episodes, which come to about 3 hours in total. One is called The Pirates and the Prince, in which R2-D2 and C-3PO are purchased by a headstrong young miner named Jan Tosh. Not very exciting, I'm afraid to say. And a far-flung quest to help an alien prince regain his crown. And then the next one is called Treasure of the Hidden Planet, where they join their master, Mungo Boobab, in a quest for precious runestones. Well, not very exciting, sorry. Just cheaply animated, kind of like, you know, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe meet Star Wars with, you know, that talking rubbish bin. And the Golden Dude. Not particularly amazing. The next one is the live action 1984 and 1985 American TV films that for some inexplicable reason were released in the UK, not in the UK, but released on the US. Well, they're released in the UK as feature films, so you could go and watch them at the cinema. I never saw them at the cinema, I think, but they're also released on this American-only, pretty rare, Region 1 locked DVD containing Caravan of Courage and Battle of Endor. I have to tell you, these are not good movies at all. If you want an example of what it feels like someone's taken a pilot episode of Willow the TV series, that I think was never made, and shot it on the set of there's some deleted scenes from Return of the Jedi featuring those cuddly murderous teddy bears, the Ewoks, that also are quite happy to kill, cook and eat our fearless heroes. So perhaps not quite as virtuous as you might have thought. And the whole thing feels like it was some kids with a very low budget broke into the set of Return of the Jedi on a weekend, found ill-fitting clothes and ran around making up the script as they went along. They are not good films at all. They scream low budget, low time scales, rushed rubbish. I do not like these, Sam. I am. They're not great at all. Please do not spend your time watching these. You will watch them and you'll go, what was that all about? And then someone else will go, it's all about making money, because they sure as hell isn't a story worth telling here. So the Ewoks movies, really bad, terrible. They make the holiday special look like a pile of shit. Now that we're into the last four, actually. So what can come next? Well, this is and I think it's really unfair, actually, that this got a theatrical release, because there are episodes of the Clone Wars TV show which are easily as good as the worst of the films. You know, there are episodes on the Clone Wars TV show that beat the living crap out of the sequels, completely and utterly leave them standing in smoking ruins. But sadly, the first experience most people, at least in the UK, got of the Clone Wars was this. The Clone Wars, the theatrical movie, an animated CGI fest released in 2008. It's basically 3 episodes of the Clone Wars TV show stuck together and rendered in widescreen. I have little memory of this, apart from the fact that when I was watching it, I was like, it's not very good, is it? Shall I go to the supermarket? Oh, I might as well go and find out what happens. I paid for my ticket. A complete waste, I think, of about 98 minutes of your time. They just aren't very good, I'm afraid to say. It's got it's got some very shallow, crass, stupid characterization in it that's borderline offensive. It's got a very one-dimensional plot. The only thing it really does is it introduces Luke Skywalker to his Padawan Ashoka, which is absolutely fantastic and is an integral part of Star Wars mythology. But aside from that, Clone Wars is basically shit on a plate. It is no good at all. It makes itself out to be much, much better than it actually is. It's just pretty bad, full stop. Poor characterization, poor plotting, poor narrative, just everything about it is just not very good. It's kind of like, if you watch the first season of something and it wasn't very good, and someone says, well, yeah, by season 3 it gets good, It's kind of like Clone Wars the movie. It's kind of like the worst episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation season 1 before Sex Riker got a beard. And then, you throw like the episode like Angel 1 in there, and you throw maybe a couple of the other ones in there as well. I don't know, Shades of Grey, I think that's the compilation episode from season 2, and there's that one where it's just awful. It's like all the worst episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation season 1 before Beard Sex Riker turned up. And you threw them into a movie, and somehow someone said, hey, look, new Star Trek, and you go, I think I preferred the idea of Star Trek as opposed to what you've actually gone and delivered there. So Clone Wars movie, bad. If you're going to go and watch all the Clone Wars stuff, yes, you've got to watch the Clone Wars movie, but Clone Wars movie, bad. Not good. Napster, bad. Money, good. For those of you who don't know, that is actually a riff on a very, very ancient YouTube video around Metallica. So we're into the final 3. What is it going to be? Rogue One, Solo, and Star Wars, The Clone Wars animated release. Well, it's going to be Solo. So this is where Star Wars, in terms of theatrical releases, crosses over the threshold into watchability. This is just a very nice, inoffensive, reasonably fluffy kind of Star Wars movie. The stakes are never particularly high. The Empire appear in about 2 shots in the whole thing. There's sorry, I've forgotten your name, sir. Alden Ehrenreich plays a young Han Solo, and Donald Glover knocks it out of the goddamn park as Lando. And we've got a couple of other characters that turn up as well. Phoebe Waller-Bridge does an absolutely great kind of role as the basically Lando's robot butler, but does it in a very, very wonderful way. It's a great film, actually. It's just perfect cookie cutter canon fodder for, if you want to watch a bit of, just well, I call it, if you just want to watch brain fluff. If you want to watch brain fluff, and that is just very simply, if you just want to watch a film, just have it on in the background. It's almost like comfort television. It's like watching your friends that live in the television. This movie, the stakes are never particularly high. Nothing particularly gets resolved. You get to see how Han gets, I don't know, fluffy dice, how he gets his name, how he meets Chewbacca, how he meets Lando, how he gets Millennium Falcon, how he does the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs. But what you don't get is you don't get any stakes in there. People die, and people are going to die because they're people that have not appeared in any of the other films. So there's no changes or alterations. It's almost like the reset button at the end of it. Very similar. It's almost like South Park's "Oh my God, they killed Kenny," but in space. In so much as the stakes are very low. It's nice. It's fun. It's got some lovely moments in it. It's got a really interesting subplot actually, where the robot. Played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, whose name I've forgotten, actually frees all the robot slaves, so they get to have a robot rebellion. I love that bit, and it's good. It's really good, but it's not amazing. And it's kind of like going out with someone because they look like the extra that you really, really liked, and you can't get real Star Wars anymore. So it's okay, taken on its own merits. You know, the torturous production history of this film, where the directors, I think was it Lord and Miller, who originally came up with it, were kind of like, you know, had their involvement in the film ended at short notice and replaced by Ron Howard. That doesn't show in the construction of the film. What shows in the construction of the film is they played it a little bit too safe. And they said, right, well, we've got like a bingo checklist. So, you know, if you watch a James Bond movie, well, you know, you've got the bit at the beginning, you've got a chase of some description, you've got an explosion, you've got the, you know, you've got the credit sequence, you've got the scene where Bond goes and meets M, and the bit where he flirts with Moneypenny, and the bit where he meets the bad guy, but the bad guy isn't really there, and the bit where he fights the henchman's bad guy, and then he's introduced to a woman, and then he sleeps with a woman, and then the woman gets killed by the bad guy's henchman, and then the bad guy's henchman and Bond have a battle, and then the bad guy's henchman dies, and then the bad guy turns up, and then he tells everyone the plot while Bond is on a table, and there's a laser, and he goes, "No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die." It's the same kind of thing. It's almost like a checklist. It's like Star Wars bingo. This is really good, but it's Star Wars bingo. So that is perhaps where I would call number 4, number 3 actually. So we've got 2 left. So which one is it going to be? Is it going to be Clone Wars or is it going to be Rogue One? Clone Wars, the animated season. So these are 2 DVDs that are now out of print. I'm not sure if they're on Netflix or if they're on Disney Plus. They're not available on Blu-ray, which is absolutely criminal. So these are officially kind of sanctioned, licensed. George Lucas had his hands all over it, all the way through. And these have been directed by, I've never pronounced this name before, so Jendi Tartakovsky, who specialises in a certain form of animation, and it's basically 2 short films, both about an hour long. Volume 1 here is made of about 20 short films of 3 or 4 minutes each, that introduce the Clone Wars, the things that we never got to see, and these sit in the chronology in between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. So this, you know, Revenge of the Sith is the end of the Clone Wars. This is the meat of the Clone Wars. And it's brilliant. You know, it opens your eyes around what the Clone Wars actually was. You get to see Samuel L. Jackson, Mace Windu, Yoda, you know, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker. You get to see Ventress as well. You get to see all of the stuff that happened in between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith in 2 1-hour-long episodes. And these really should be packaged together as one disc and just presented as that, because this is brilliant stuff. There's stuff in here and you go, my God, I never even thought of that. You know, when you get to see some of the other movies, you get to see the Jedi at maybe a tenth of their power. In this, it's 100% Jedi, full on. They're doing stuff and you go, that's the stuff I always dreamed that I'd be watching. You know, the bit I remember when I watched Attack of the Clones actually, and there's the bit where Dooku and Yoda kind of face off, and Yoda just opens his hand and the lightsaber flies straight in, and that got a gasp when I saw the film Attack of the Clones for the first time. This is full of those moments where you go, oh my God, the Jedi really, really can do this stuff. Absolutely essential watching if you like Star Wars and you really need to see some more Star Wars. So this is... you know, George Lucas has got his hands all over it. So this one, 20 short films that all kind of build to a crescendo. This one is 5 short 12-minute episodes that are all stitched together to create basically an hour-long mini movie, which when you watch the 2 back to each other, they feel like you've just watched this fantastic 2-hour animated Lost Star Wars classic. Sorry, I've got an eyelash it's fallen in my eye, which I needed to get rid of there. This is brilliant stuff. There's got the face-off between Mace Windu and this huge battle cruiser, and he somehow does these incredible things. And you just get to see all of it. You get to see all of the stuff, and it's incredibly satisfying. You also get to see, by the way, and hopefully this is not a spoiler, General Grievous makes his first appearance. So if General Grievous turns up in the middle of Revenge of the Sith and you go, who's that dude? What's it all about? Well, it's all told here. He's already battled with the Jedi. That's why he's got the coat full of lightsabers. That's why he's got the cough. And I don't want to spoil it for you, but this is absolutely essential watching if you like the prequels. Do watch these two. Pick them up if you can find them. I think they're in CEX for about £1 each at the moment, but they won't be there forever. So if you can watch them, watch them. Now, sadly, these have been relegated out of canon at a certain point because last-minute script revisions and edits to Revenge of the Sith meant that the continuity between this and Revenge of the Sith got broken, which is a great shame because these really deserve to be better seen. I love these to bits. I would love you to watch them. And that means, to quote another franchise, there can be only one, and that is Rogue One. This puts the wars back into Star Wars. The other movies didn't have so many wars. This is all wars. This is just a fantastic movie. It's kind of like, Force 10 from Navarone, or the Guns of Navarone in space with the plan. So it's just a classic World War II action-adventure movie with a tale of daring do, where they have to go and steal the plans from the Nazis using lightsabers. And if it was made in the 60s, undoubtedly it would have, what's his name, Oliver Reed in it, or that other guy with the name of Harris, who was Richard Harris, who was always drunk. Basically, the cast of Wild Geese. So this is kind of like the best action movie from the 60s, the best kind of Wild Geese, Guns of Navarone type movie, but set in space in Star Wars land. And unlike most other Star Wars movies, this goes to places because everyone is expendable in this movie, because you're introducing a whole new cast of characters that you haven't seen before. So it's like an hour into the movie before you see somebody that actually appears in any of the other Star Wars movies, but it feels like Star Wars. It's got that same kind of deft touch, that slightly bonkers, off the wall kind of imagination element around it. I love this movie. It is probably my fourth favourite Star Wars movie, actually. By the way, the top ones I've done in a previous episode are, of course, Empire Strikes Back, New Hope, Revenge of the Sith, Rogue One, and then Last Jedi. This is brilliant. It's best Star Wars movie I've seen since Revenge of the Sith, I think. And it really just captures that moment. It's got lovely sections and moments in it. I mean, it's been hugely rewritten and reassembled and put together at the last minute. And I think there's a guy whose surname is Gilroy, whose name I can never remember, who's worked on the Mission Impossible films. He did a huge amount of work on this, but he made it into this just bloody brilliant Star Wars movie. And that last hour, where you've got 2 or 3 different battles that are ongoing at the same time. All the characters are expendable and everything is up for grabs. And you go, what, are they going to succeed? Well, of course they're going to succeed, because otherwise there wouldn't be a Star Wars. But you then think all those little allusions and all those little lines in Star Wars about, we intercepted the transmissions, there's no data on the ship, all that stuff, it all makes sense. And you suddenly realise why Darth Vader looks so goddamn annoyed at the beginning of A New Hope, because this, right at the end, you see Darth Vader thwarted in his efforts. You've got a lovely subplot about machinations and politics and people that sell out and betray or are prepared to accept certain degrees of compromise in order to get power. And you've got greedy people that are prepared to take all the credit. Now, I've worked in places where I know people that have done absolutely nothing but have managed to get all the awards for it, and the people that actually did all the work get shunted off to the sides. And that's exactly what happens in this movie, actually. You get all of that. You get the most amazing space battle, because you get the kind of space battle that if George Lucas could have done it at the time, he would have done it. No ifs, no buts, no debate around it. If he could have done the kind of technology which Gareth Edwards had at his disposal, he would have done something like this. The only reason he made Star Wars and he didn't make the other movies is because he was limited by budget and technology. Otherwise, he would have done something like Rogue One. And it feels like Star Wars. The space battle is phenomenal. It's one of the best space battles that there is. And you go back and say, this is what I always wanted to see. Whenever I went to a Star Wars movie, I wanted to see this. And that is what this film delivers in spades. Is just huge amounts of just not fan service, but a huge amount, I think, of wish fulfillment. Which is a very, very different thing. Actually, Gareth Edwards has got this huge playground, and he has just gone to town with the whole thing, and he's gone, what can I do? And he's gone, right, we'll have a Death Star, we're going to have a space battle with huge numbers of fleets, we're going to have Y-wings and X-wings and weird versions of wings that you've never seen before, and we're going to see Red 5 buy it and die, and therefore you know that Luke Skywalker hasn't just been parachuted in. Red 5 was a guy and he died. It wasn't just that they had a spare slot at Red 5, they'd lost a guy like 4 days before called Red 5, and Luke's turned up as the new Red 5. I think it's Red 5 anyway. And you've got all of this, and then you get appearances using unused footage from Star Wars: A New Hope. So, for example, some of the gold leaders, blue leaders, red leaders, for example, one of them, they turn up in there, and you're suddenly going, yes, this feels like it could have been made 3 years before Star Wars, and then someone dramatically cut the budget for Star Wars. But it feels like it belongs, and it kind of dovetails in perfectly towards the beginning of A New Hope. And I must admit, yeah, I mean, I had someone threw sand in my eyes at the end of Rogue One, because I was like, my God, they've done it. They've done the thing that we always wanted to see, which was more Star Wars, and got it right. So Rogue One is a phenomenally good Star Wars movie. If you don't like Star Wars, of course, they're all a piece of shit. But if you like Star Wars, this is great. And this is exactly what you want to see. It's just really bloody good. And there is a section at the end, which is apparently last minute reshoots, where you get to see Darth Vader at the peak of his powers. And let me tell you, that guy, he does not take prisoners. You know, all those times in all those movies where people talked about Darth Vader in hushed tones, and you kind of thought, yeah, but you know, you're a bit clunky, you're a bit past it maybe. In this, you get to see Darth Vader at the peak of his powers, and the man is a killing machine. He is not a nice dude. He is, you know, or basically, if you wanted to play a video game of any character in Star Wars, and you'd probably want to play Darth Vader, because you can force choke and kill anybody that you like. You can throw them around the room. You can use a lightsaber, and you get to come out with quips like some kind of demented, psychotic James Bond in an iron lung, and that's exactly what you get to see. And you get to see why he's so bloody annoyed in all the other movies. Because he's like, oh, this is my job, I do this, and they beat me, and God damn it, and so on and so forth. So Rogue One, best non-Skywalker saga Star Wars movie, probably the 4th best Star Wars movie there is. I love this film to bits. I am so glad it exists. I wish they made more spin-off movies like this, but they haven't made a spin-off movie. They've gone into TV, they've gone into Mandalorian, they've announced the Obi-Wan TV show. They've announced a lot of stuff. And I'll be really honest about it. It's too much Star Wars. When we had that gap, 3 years between movies, that was good. You know, but for example, the gap between Last Jedi and Solo was 6 months, and that wasn't enough time. We needed more time, and you need to think about the story that you're telling. Because to be honest, Solo, good as it is, it feels like a hastily rushed off B-sides album as opposed to the real thing. And so that's where I'm going to end it today. So yeah, Rogue One, I love it to bits. I deliberately have done normally when I do one of these things, I do a bit of reading. I go back and visit the reviews that I wrote at the time the movies came out. What did I think about them? I've done none of that today. I was like, oh, all right, well, I might just go and watch television for a bit and everything's going to be good. And then I was talking with my brother and he said, do you know it's May the 4th? And I'm like, yeah. And he said, could you do one about the Star Wars spin-off movies? And I'm like, no. And then after about 20 minutes, I was like, yep. And here we are. No prep, no rehearsal, just me talking rubbish without a script or even doing any Googling for half an hour about the Star Wars spin-off movies. Buy Rogue One, or watch it, it's really bloody good. Don't go any further than Solo. Don't watch Clone Wars. Don't watch Droids. Don't watch Caravan of Courage or Battle of Endor or Droids. Find these if you haven't seen them. They're really good. And after that, the next time I talk about Star Wars, I hopefully will have seen at the very least all the best episodes out of the 6 seasons of Clone Wars. And if I haven't, it's going to be a long time until I do it, because I try to watch everything before I talk about it or listen to it or experience it again in some way. I'll read it. So there we are. Next time I talk about Star Wars, I'll be talking about Clone Wars, and I'll be talking about Rebels, which is a bit of a kid show, and I'll be talking about Mandalorian. But in the meantime, May the 4th be with you. Sorry, you thought you could escape me not making that terrible joke. You're wrong. And stay beautiful. And I will see you all again sometime soon. Bye.